So, in the last chapter of Four Knights of the Apocalypse, we ended up getting Cath being dog-walked by Ban alone. Like, no question, Ban was decimating him in that fight, and then King had to go and ruin a good thing by reminding Cath that Ban is not just human, but isn't immortal anymore. And then Cath basically uses time magic to age Ban up decades to the point of him being an old man, spitting up parts of his internal organs and stuff, which is just absolutely crazy to see, as this seems to be the turning point for the fight against Cath. All because King could not keep his mouth shut. So that is a crazy way to make a way for this fight to change. But we see what happens next, as it seems like the Sins are in their darkest hour yet, and an unlikely person is coming in to save the day and save them and the kingdom potentially, and a character that we really wanted to see do something for the longest time. Before we get into this chapter, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell and hype up the video to help boost in the algorithm to share with more people and get more people interested in Four Knights of the Apocalypse as well. Plus, it shows you guys enjoy the content I make here on the channel and shows you want to see more. And if you want to see more of me outside this channel, go and check out my second channel, GW Comics, where I talk about comic books and I'm branching over to like Marvel and DC TV and movies. So I'm going to try and do stuff like that as well as usual comic book content as well. It's a passion project. I would really appreciate if you guys go and check it out the next time you get the chance. Links will be in the title card above and the description down below. Now then, let's jump right into Four Knights of the Apocalypse. Chapter 227 of Four Knights of the Apocalypse, titled Meliodas in Bedlam. And the cover image is of Meliodas in his kingly attire, standing aura farming. Really cool image of Meliodas, and I like how the title card is used off on the side. Probably the best the title card of Four Knights of the Apocalypse has looked in the actual manga, in my opinion. Really cool. That's really all I have to say. But we start off directly from last week, where Ban is aged up multiple decades to the point of being a crippling old man, seemingly, as Cath is just cackling his ass off while Meliodas screams out towards Ban, with Cath thanking King for reminding him that this absolute monster in front of him is just a mere human. And this shocks King, as he's wondering, what did he do to him? And Meliodas looks at how Ban looks, with blood coughing up. Ban says that the air in purgatory didn't even affect his internal organs one bit, but now his organs are all just falling apart profusely, as Meliodas notices, and so does Ban, what Cath did, saying that he used time manipulation to amp up his age to an absurd degree. And Cath is just grinning ear to ear, just grimacingly. And this is actually a nice piece of information for Ban to really think about, considering the fact that it's alluded to that Cath used this power earlier in this arc, when Ban completely destroyed all the perils in an instant, turned them into a bloody mess, decapitated them, all that stuff. But Ban stated that, yeah, he can regenerate them from bloody bits with chaos, but the armor is another thing. Since we've actually only seen chaos create living matter, or change living matter, and when it comes to physical objects, it doesn't really make physical objects in that much. It only can really warp it. So when it came to bringing them back to the way it was, Cath used time manipulation to revert their armor back to the way that it was before, as Ban is talking about how the perils' armor basically returned to normal after he completely destroyed every little bit of it. So, okay, we get some explanation on that. Bit iffy on that regard, but hey, it's a nice way of showing that Cath has been using time magic subtly beforehand. So that's a nice way to go about things. Also, I do want to address one quick thing. People were also kind of like complaining that this is kind of an ass-pullish way for Ban to get taken out of the fight for a minute. Because yeah, Cath all of a sudden getting told that Ban is just human by King offhandedly was a way for Nakaba to write in a way for Cath to come out on top and finally get ahead in the fight against the Sins. And while I do agree that is very circumstantial, at the same time, it's really the only conceivable way in the moment that Cath could take out the Sins, or at least get the upper hand. And honestly, it's also to an extent in character for King, because there's a lot of times where he just says shit where he's not supposed to say stuff, or shares a bit too much. Like, he's very open with how he thinks a lot of the time. So that also plays into it. But Cath is like, oh, nice of you to notice with the time magic, but he continues to laugh. But he notices something. Even though he doesn't have the full extent of his chaos power, he should have been able to turn Bond into a skeleton in an instant. But someone stopped his aging. Someone is blocking his power to age up Bond. And so he begins to look and try and sense for who in the area could possibly stop his magic from activating and killing Bond in an instant. And then he picks up on it, lunging his right Chaos Tentacle arm towards a bunch of buildings, reaches in and pulls somebody out. Noticing what magic is being used here with that magic force, revealing the Merlin doll. As he picks her up from a safe house that she was in nearby, also we can see little Escanor screaming out for Merlin as she's taken away. Poor Escanor, he's in a form that he can't possibly fight back in. And look, I fully acknowledge, if Escanor was back at full strength, the Sins would have a really, really, near perfect win in this instance. But anyway, people were complaining about Merlin not being around, or Merlin can reverse time magic and stuff like that with her Infinity or Absolute Cancel. No, she can't. It's an active spell. What she ended up doing was being able to block the time from affecting Bond to kill him. His body is still relatively the same as it is for the most part, it's just his internal organs are kind of getting torn apart by the rapid aging. So Merlin, off on the side, was still capable of at least blocking Cath from accelerating Bond's aging to the degree of him literally dying by turning into dust. So that's a good way to keep Merlin in a supportive role, since she can't really do much in this doll form, since she is off in a different realm. Still, it is nice that Merlin still is overseeing what's going on in Leonis through her mechanical doll, because she is still concerned over what's going on with Cath, and is also supporting the Sins to a not too big degree, but in a way that does matter in terms of keeping them alive for that instance. But that's short-lived, because the second Cath grabs Merlin, and Merlin tells him that he won't be able to find Arthur, and that she isn't the actual Merlin in this area. Cath then eats the doll and swallows it, saying that it doesn't really matter right now, because now that I basically mastered and memorized the scent of your magic, no matter where you hide, I will find you. Now this adds the ticking time bomb for the four knights off in their own little section of the story arc as they're traversing Camelot while Cath is away to find Merlin, and by extension, the real Arthur. Which means Merlin will probably want things to get kind of accelerated and probably try and move Arthur, or move closer to the four knights, and then move to a different location to a farther degree to stay out of Cath's reach, because they're not ready to face Cath just yet. Then again, Lancelot will probably be able to take out Cath, but who knows what dirty tricks he'll try and make Lancelot not as powerful anymore. People have their theories. But still, it's a nice way to add a little extra tension for the other plot point. But either way, Cath swallows Merlin and is getting cocky once more. But he's then stabbed through, and more holes are made through him with King's Sacred Spear, and Deanne seemingly does a slash attack with potentially Ground Gladius with Gideon to take on Cath. But as they're charging in to try and fight Cath and join the fight with Meliodas, Cath stops him, and Meliodas senses what's going on, as Cath reveals that all the citizens of Leonis have been captured. All the Chaos Beasts have been regenerated, all while the Sins were preoccupied with Cath, leaving all the citizens to basically get overwhelmed and captured by the Chaos Beasts. Same with all the Holy Knights, as they all came back to life. And Cath, putting his face together, says, "What's your next move?" Saying that the person that could take them all out and save everybody in an instant is now too old to move and is completely sidelined. And if you'd like to fight me anyway, go right ahead. As we cut to Nazienne's getting slashed across her chest with seemingly a fatal wound, as An is tangled up and captured by one of the Chaos Beasts. As Cath is gloating, basically holding their daughter's life in his clutches. And so the two of them sense what happens to Nazienne's, and Cath, smiling with a innocently sinister smile, says, "Have you made up your mind?" As he threatens to kill Nazienne's right on the spot. "Do you want me to continue or not?" And with their child's life on the line, King and Deanne do the only thing they can do: drop their weapons. Deanne drops Gideon, and King deactivates Chastity Full. and they basically say, do whatever you want to us, just let our daughter go. As Meliodas is just staring on in horror, as they say that they're sorry to Meliodas for all this. Meliodas goes demon mark, seemingly getting ready to just go uncontrolled fury on Cath. But then Cath says, why the look, Meliodas? As we get images of not only more citizens being threatened with their lives, but Hauser and Gila got stabbed through the chest, seemingly on the verge of death at this point, and Meliodas has no choice but to power down, as if he does any more, he could potentially kill everybody that he was meaning to save. And this is a predicament that any hero would basically have no choice but to give up unless a better option presents itself. And so, Cath begins to completely attack and dismantle all the sins. As Isolde is running away from the carnage, we get a page of blood spatter showcasing the sins as she is running towards the castle where Elizabeth, Bartra, and Slater were, as everything is being torn asunder. Cath is still knocking around Bond, but Bond is still standing up, holding on. And even Cath is wondering how the hell he's still so sturdy despite being that old. But King is on the ground, his wings torn to shreds, cuts and gashes all over as he's barely conscious, as Cath says that ripping King apart was like cutting up wet paper. And Deanne is on the ground next to him as Cath continues to stab her all over her body, all while King is just begging for him to stop. All while he's cackling and having the time of his life, torturing them. It is really hard to watch, especially considering that this is happening to Deanne, and something like this has happened in the past in the first season of Seven Deadly Sins, on the assault on Leonis when the Sins had to go back at the beginning of the series. This is brutal. This is like really brutal. And we see Cath holding Meliodas, piercing him through the chest, as Meliodas is also badly injured. As he says, oh look, I beat all you god killers. Does that make me the one true god of this world? Your one true god? As he's getting all high on defeating the Sins. Look, we all know Cath would have been destroyed if he actually fought one-on-one on 5 or one-on-one with any of most of the Sins, or at least against Bond in this instance. If he didn't have the literal hostages and aged up Bond, he'd be donezo. He doesn't even have the full extent of chaos, the creation deity's power of this universe. So, yeah, he is just taking every advantage to just boost his ego as he basically took out the Sins, seemingly. Meliodas tries to get some words out as he asks him to just let all the hostages go. He's done all he has, just do what he promised. And Cath just laughs and says, you're an idiot, as he then slices up Meliodas in multitudes of pieces, completely dicing him as he falls to the ground, with Donnie looking over in horror and Bond looking over in sheer shock, trying to get the words out as Meliodas has seemingly been killed in front of him. And even Hauser is in disbelief, and all the Sins are in disbelief on how the Sins could have lost. The legendary heroes are gone. Who could stand up to this monster? And we get an image of Theodora looking down at the chained box that he was given. This is a Chekhov's gun moment. This could be something that could hold off Cath, or even, well, stop him for the time being. My money is basically on him getting sealed for a substantial amount of time. Or it has some very powerful primordial beast sealed within, or primordial spirit, that can hold off Cath, that only Theodora could potentially control with his specific abilities that he had acquired when he killed his handlers in the tournament arc. So that is something that could be the case, but all I know is that Nakaba does not show something so obvious that it won't have anything to do with the story going forward. But yeah, the Sins have been dealt with. They have been taken out because of, well, hostages. And Meliodas was diced up. Now look, Meliodas is probably still alive. We all know from what happened with Tristan when he got literally sliced in two, that they can just regenerate from that. So Meliodas does have severe wounds. And even before that, he was exhausted from the fight with Cath, expending a bunch of magic power in darkness. So he probably can't regenerate fully since he's so exhausted and tattered up. So he's probably still conscious. Same with King and Deanne, despite how near death they are. They are still relatively tough. But even then, with everything that's going on right now, they are very close to death. And Bon is, well, his insides are failing him, despite him just powering through with his near unbreakable body. At least externally. So right now, outside of Theodora, there's really only one person left that could actually help save everyone. And that's where this chapter is leading towards. We cut to Elizabeth and Bartra's chambers, as Isolde is telling Elizabeth to take Bartra and run for their lives. The citizens have been taken hostage, the Sins are basically done and potentially killed, saying that right now, at least for her and her father to get to safety, that they have to run. And while she will stay behind and at least try to fight back and go down fighting. As she is trying to hold back and failing to hold back all the tears, because she made a promise to Tristan that she would defend the kingdom. But Elizabeth grabs her by the face and wipes away her tears, saying enough of that. Saying that she has a future with Tristan ahead of her, and that she's sure everything will be fine, and asks Isolde to take care of her father for her, as she has a very nice and innocent smile. She walks out onto the roof, looking down at the battlefield, saying, "This is not the end of Leonis, all its people, and the 7 deadly sins as well. I swear I will protect them, even if it means losing my own life," as the chapter ends. And with that, it's seemingly getting set up for Bloody Ellie to finally take the stage. Now look, I know a lot of people are kind of concerned because, well, Elizabeth rarely did anything in 7 Deadly Sins, and right now she's kind of been off on the sidelines just protecting her father. But this is the chance for things to turn back to the side of the Sins and potentially save everybody. Because Elizabeth's healing powers are insanely strong. She can bring people back to full health from the brink of death. If Mael can bring Escanor back after what that Endura did to him in his nighttime when he lost Sunshine towards the end of the final arc when he was fighting the Demon King, Elizabeth can bring back the Sins to full health, potentially restore Bon's organs for all we know. That is definitely what's going to happen, and it could lead to that future vision at the beginning of chapter 128, where we saw these angelic wings over the top of Leonis. This could be the start of at least a portion of that future vision Guinevere had, with Elizabeth intervening in the fight. She will cast a massive healing spell to heal all the Sins and all the citizens and holy knights, giving everybody at least the chance to get to safety. Perhaps she will even use Arc to hold back all of the Chaos Beasts so that people can get away, and hopefully for Bon and the Sins to hold off Cath. Now, this will not last long, and I would like there to be a showcase of Meliodas and Elizabeth fighting together, because in the backstory for them being together, and for them just having the, well, legends of themselves and nicknames, you would expect someone called Bloody Ellie to be insanely powerful and roughly on Meliodas' level around the time they met over 3,000 years ago. So this is the perfect chance for Nagaba to show Elizabeth's strength and to really show us what she can do in a fight by herself and with Meliodas. Now, while I do think she's just going to revive everybody at the beginning of the next chapter to kind of get everything back up to speed so that at least King, Deanne, and maybe Bon can go and save the citizens while she and Meliodas handle Cath, I think that's likely, and then we'll have Theodora unleashing whatever's inside that chain box. That seems like the most likely scenario that is going to happen. While I do believe things will go bad for the Sins and that maybe Cath will win at the end still, I really do think that Elizabeth can really turn the tide here. There was a lot put into her character's strength and healing abilities as well from 7 Deadly Sins that we never really get to see, and this is like the perfect situation to set her up to be the hero in her home, save her husband, save her friends and her citizens. This feels like the perfect setup. Do I think Nagaba will fully succeed in this? I'm not so sure, but I have faith. And all 5 Elizabeth fans out there are probably going to be eating good next week. And we're getting a color page next chapter, so that's going to be great. Anyway, that's all I have to say about this chapter. There's a lot to really consider on what's going to happen next, and I am really excited to hopefully see Elizabeth do something massive next chapter. But what do you guys think? Leave your thoughts, opinions in the comment section down below. And what's more, if you haven't already, like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. Really helps and it shows you guys enjoy the content I make here on the channel and shows you want to see more. Here's hoping that we really get to see why Elizabeth was called Bloody Ellie in the past, because my god, do I really, really want that. That is something that every fan wants to see at some point. But with all that said and done, hope you all enjoyed the video, and I hope you all have an awesome day.